Who's never shed a tear has never loved anybody. And no matter how smart people are, if they never loved anybody, I'm not deeply impressed. Grandma may not have read Socrates, but she loved me. She loved Cliff. She loved Cynthia. She loved Cheryl. She loved folk in her church. She loved all those little precious black folk who came to vacation Bible school that she taught over and over again and passed it on to my mama. That kind of witness has to do with concrete love. Now, Socrates is not pushed out. We need Socrates, but he's necessary, not sufficient. He doesn't cut deep enough. Jesus weeps. Ooh, that's different. That's different. Our Jewish brothers and sisters begin Hebrew scripture with what? Cries of affliction. Now, when you start with cries in the face of catastrophe, then how do you deal with a reality that is so overwhelming that you know language is inadequate, you know you don't have a solution for it? Somebody sing a song. 1837, Philadelphia. First time black people come together as a public. Henry Highland Garnett walks up, got one leg, leaning on a crutch, and says, I want to tell you black folks something you never forget. He says, our situation is not that of the Israelites in the Christian Old Testament. For us, Pharaoh is on both sides of the bloody Red Sea. That's Henry Highland Garnett. And it got silent. It's a cricket. And somebody in the back said, could somebody sing a song, please? But we laugh now to keep from crying. We in a situation now. Somebody got to sing a song to encourage us, inspire us, keep us moving. The kinesis of the kairos connected to the kenosis. That meaningful moments that allow us to push chronos back so that we can keep persevering in order to maybe give enough of ourselves for a breakthrough. That's the history of any oppressed people's struggle. That's the history of the species. That's why Vico is right. You begin with burial and the corpse says, it's not Heideggerian talk about abstract possibilities of love somewhere down, of death somewhere down the line. You begin with corpses, that's Vico. And what do you do with those corpses, Vico said? Silence first, then moans, then groans, then a song, then poetry, later on philosophy, later on science. Ooh, our Italian, iconoclastic Catholic brother Vico. He's on to something deep here. He's on to something deep. And I think, you know, within the academy, you can imagine, you know, this has tremendous implications in terms of the various schools of thought that circulate and travel. The concrete experience in time and space. And it's one of the reasons why the artists of the last 150 years or 250 years tend to mean much more to us than the philosophers. You see, I mean, as Europe reaches the end of its age, it started in 1492, it's over in 1945, begins with the expulsion of Jews, it ends with the inability to come to terms with Jewish humanity with those concentration camps. But of course, the colonization of the world, the reshaping of the whole world in the interest and in the image of those nations between the Ural Mountains and the Atlantic Ocean, the Europeanization of the world. Those last 40 years, who really provides the deepest insights? Well, Kafka is the Dante of late European modernity. Does any philosopher even come close to Franz Kafka? I love John Dewey, but let's not do harm to him. And it embarrassed John Dewey against Kafka, you know. No. The Dante of our day, Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison. Let's look at the underside. Let's look at the infernos. Let's look at the possibility for the purgatories or the paradises. She even writes a novel, The Paradise. But the beloved Inferno. Who has the courage the genius to explore the underside of the American experiment and do it in such a way that you still revel in humanity across the board. But of course, Toni Morrison writes as a musician. She is a literary musician. And her inspiration is the greatest musical artist of the 20th century. I'm just going to be real bodacious. Sarah Vaughan. Sarah Vaughan. You see, when the history is written of who, with artistic mastery of craft and scale and scope and breadth and intensity, is willing to wrestle with the whole picture in light of a tradition bequeathed to her in voice. Sarah Vaughan. Now, Billy and Ella and others are unbelievable, and we won't get into a debate about that. But Toni connects with Sarah Vaughan in that way, you see. And she gives us and has given us and will continue to give us, we hope, some resources that deal with this crisis and catastrophe that we are in. Because there's always a chance that we might not get out. That's why pessimism is so pervasive. That's why your first chapter on Beyond Pessimism is so timely. The pessimism among the younger generation is running afoot. Afro-pessimism is one of the most popular philosophical and theoretical perspectives. And the lived pessimism, the lived nihilism of young people is off the charts.